Hi everyone, Timothy Dunn here. Let's dive right into law number 3, and this is part of the 48 Laws of Power that we're going through that's written by Mr. Robert Greene. Now, law number 3 talks about concealing your intentions. This is pretty intricate. Let's see, it says, keep people off balance and in the dark by never revealing the purpose behind your actions. If they have no clue what you're up to, they cannot prepare a defense. Guide them far enough down the wrong path and envelop them in enough smoke, and by the time they realize your intentions, it will be too late. Now, I have a real problem with this philosophically, because I do not want to adapt this into my characteristics, but I want to be able to learn from this. I don't want to be a skillful, deceiving personality. So we've got to go through this. So what I wanted to do is kind of spin this to something that we can utilize. If you've ever been caught off guard, if you've ever been deceived or been sidetracked by a manipulator in a corporate environment, maybe there's something we can learn by observing them so that we're not as easily taken in. How's that sound? That way we don't have to absorb any of the negative traits. Remember, this book was recommended that I not buy it because an amoral personality would take it and run with it in the wrong direction. Well, I really don't want to develop some characteristics in my own personal life that are going to be considered illicit. So let's see what we can do to learn to manipulate around or survive around these types of personalities. How's that sound? Now, law number 3, and I've made some notes here. Basically, these are people that are very good at being patient, and we should watch them. What happens is they are the masters of subtlety. If anybody knows me for any length of time, they know that one of my common phrases is people are sheeple, and it's absolutely true. Most of us, especially in a corporate environment, when we are given the chance to tell a little bit about ourselves, we become open books, and it's probably not the best thing for 2 reasons. Number one, we often say too much about our personal lives or how we think or our way of making decisions. And we are under this delusion that being overly honest is actually a good character trait and it's noble. Well, that's not necessarily true. It says in the chapter here that honesty is actually a blunt instrument that bloodies more so than it cuts. And that's very interesting. We may get some vindication about being overly honest about what's happening at home, in our relationships, the way we do things, where we hide certain things at work, all these different things. And that may not be the best tact, because there are people all around us all the time that are going to absorb that information and possibly manipulate us or manipulate the situation because we're providing them all the ammunition. And it also talks about people that are paranoid or people that are very wary, and you know who you are if you're one of them. I always overthink things. But it says here that the people that are paranoid and wary are often the easiest to deceive because we overthink it. So what's the common denominator here? The common denominator is that we need to be patient, say a little bit less, and make sure that we keep our eyes and ears open for possible deception practices. Now, what am I talking about? In the chapter, it talks about the common tactics that many manipulators in corporate environments use. They use conflicting signals. They use what's called a red herring, where they have something that's an immediate project that takes the attention off of what exactly they're trying to do, what the agenda is that they're trying to accomplish. Okay? And many times we see this, and I'm just an absolute sucker for it. Manipulators use a false sense of sincerity to kind of drive us off track. If we already have a little bit of distrust, what they will do is they might have a fake tear, or they might have a cause, or something that sounds pretty relevant that makes them human once again, and we start to accept them and we buy into it. But all the while, there's something that they're trying to move towards, the power that they're trying to gain, and all they're doing is keeping a lot of people distracted. So again, not that we want to absorb this characteristic, but we want to be observing of those. And what do they look like? Well, they come in all shapes and sizes, but the biggest common denominator is that they're very patient people, they listen, They don't say a whole lot, and if they do get involved and you have a good attention span, most of the time the project that they get involved in or the energy that they focus themselves towards possibly is not the end game. And if you can remember what happened at halftime and then the score at the end of the game, you'll say, you know what? This person didn't even want to be on board with this project, or this person really doesn't even believe in that. It's amazing how much they turn. And it's up to us to make sure that we recognize it. Now, one of the things that we don't want to do is we don't want to raise our hand and say, hey, I'm watching you. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we're just quiet enough to hear and see the telltale signs. The great thing about the universe and what God's done is that He always gives us some sort of warning. When you go up on a rattlesnake, there's always the little rattle. When there's something happening that's negative, if you're open and if you're quiet and if your antennae are up, then there's always going to be something out there that's going to warn you of that situation. We, as participants in this whole thing, are actually going to gain power on our own just by being observant. We don't have to be manipulators, but one of the things that we often do is we give away our power to those people by buying into the red herrings, the things that are distracting us, being overly emotional, being overly honest, sharing things that we probably shouldn't share, and by being paranoid. Now, I don't know if that describes you, but at some point, possibly all in the compass of an hour, it, in several different days, described me. I went from cautious to optimistic to happy to paranoid to worried about something. And all the while, what I didn't realize was happening is that I was giving power away to the manipulators that were laying those emotions or those opportunities for me to feel those emotions right in front of me. I was actually empowering them, and that's not the intention that I had. So the thing that we can learn from this is that if we learn to understand how to conceal our intentions and learn to develop an awareness of those that manipulate, then we're going to be much happier, and we may not gain a whole lot of power out of it, but one of the things we won't do is we're not going to be empowering those that have negative intent, and that's something that's going to really help us along the way. It's not always about getting stronger. Sometimes it's about just breaking even. And the more that we choose not to weaken ourselves, the more that we control ourselves, the better it's going to be. Now, I hope this has been helpful. Again, pick up the book. There are 17 pages in this one chapter about law number 3. Stay tuned for law number 4. That'll be coming up pretty soon. And I want to thank you again for sticking with me during this journey. This is, again, Physician Heal Thyself. This is something that I want to learn, and hopefully I'm providing some good content and some good value to you. Hope you're doing great. I'll talk to you soon, okay?